if I hadn't have had that element of like, I need this, otherwise my life is going to fall apart and this life I've built is going to go away, then I'd never have brainstormed all these creative ideas because I wouldn't have needed to.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't be where I am now.
Welcome to the Journee Girls Club podcast. We're a private online community of young female entrepreneurs, founders and freelancers, leveling up in life and business together through genuine friendships and big ambitions. You're in the right place if you want to surround yourself with more girls on your level, having deep conversations while learning and growing through all the challenges of entrepreneurship and personal growth together. We're so happy to have you, and let's get into today's episode. So today's guest is the one, the only, Hannah Del Herrera, and Hannah has gone full-time in her business for about a year and a half now,
Yeah,
right?
just over, yeah.
Yeah, and since then, she's gained 40,000 followers on LinkedIn. All of her clients come inbound through that, right? And she's also now founded the Rebel Design Club, where she helped freelance creatives also use the power of LinkedIn to fuel their own careers. So Hannah and I go way back.
Yeah,
I say way back. We've
pretty
met
much the start of my journey, to be
Yeah,
honest.
exactly. So there's lots for us to talk about.
Yes.
I think the first thing that I want to ask you is, obviously I've introduced you as Hannah, the business owner, the designer, but is there anything else that you feel like you wish people introduced you as?
It sort of goes back to, like, what do you want to be known for?
That's like a big thing for you.
That's a big thing for me, because there's so many things that I want to do with my life, and so many things that I think as ambitious people, other people might relate to this, is that there's so many things that I'd like to be known for, but then trying to figure out which one it is.
It sounds like you resonate a lot more with the title of a business owner than you do with, say, like, just a creative or a designer, for example. And I want to take that back to this idea of, like, what do you want to be known for? Because I think, like, I've struggled with this, of, like, feeling like I wear so many hats that I actually don't think I can accurately, you know, sort of, like, portray who I am to someone that's like, oh, well, what do you do?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, how do you feel like you've defined or managed to define what you want to be known for?
So far, you mean?
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, I'm still in my 20s. I'm very new to business, so I don't actually need to define it right now. But there's always that, like, inherent part of me that's like, oh, I want to define it so that I seem more professional and seem like I've got my shit together a bit more.
Where's that, like, come from, do you feel like?
I think I do actually think it's more of a universal experience in some ways. Like, a lot of business owners feel that way. But when I was first getting into business, I was watching a lot of videos.
Right.
And I heard this theory from Ali Abdul, who has now ruined my life. No, I'm joking. He hasn't. But he spoke about, or like introduced me to the idea of, what do you want to be written on your gravestone? And because I know that you can only fit a few words on a gravestone, I was like, I need to boil down who I am into a couple of words.
Right.
And actually, I don't need to do that. I can actually be known as many different things.
Yeah. I mean, right, so the first thing I think about when you say, like, because obviously, again, you know, the gravestone thing is like a culmination of, like, what's going to be written on your gravestone is a culmination of your entire life, right? And like you say, like, we're both girls in our 20s, we're not exactly sure where that's going to lead, but the first thing that comes to my mind is, like, probably the only thing that will be written on your gravestone is your name.
True.
And I think that, like, when I think about the fact that my name will be written on my gravestone, and I immediately started talking about death, which is, like, very typical of us, but, like, it just makes me think, it brings me back to my, like, silly little dream, which is to be known for being exactly who I am, or, like, you know, the whole, like, I get paid to be myself, or, like, I don't know, I was like a Kardashian, it's like, you know, I'm myself for a living, basically, and I feel like that has given me quite a lot of freedom to be like, actually, I can do whatever I want to do. I can action whatever verbs I want to action. But at the end, all of that will be culminated under just who I am. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I suppose, like, you are actually in control of how you want to be perceived. And if I want to change how I'm perceived, I can do that.
Yeah.
Because
you can
at the
reinvent
end of the day,
yourself
yeah,
at any
I'm just
time.
who I am.
Yeah.
You know who comes to mind, actually, when I think about this is Vivienne Westwood.
Really?
Because I feel like she's one of those people that has done exactly that. Like, she is somebody that's obviously known for who she is. She's, yeah, a really good business owner. She's a designer. She's, like, famously known for being a bit kooky and a bit weird. And she's just like a free person, and she's like a bit punk and just edgy, and she just is exactly who she is. And I really love people that just do that, and it's like, I'm not defined by anything, I'm just going to live my life. And that's why I feel like a lot of people love her, because she has done that. And I think I need to channel that a bit more in what I'm doing. Not saying I'm as cool as Vivienne Westwood. Not yet. But because I try so much to boil down who I am into like one thing, when actually I'm a multifaceted person, and that's like a cool thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to have so many different interests that actually make you into one thing, like one person. Like you're saying, like, I'm known as me, rather than I'm a brand designer, or I'm a freelancer, or I'm an entrepreneur, and like separating myself or compartmentalizing myself into one thing, or like these different things. Actually, they all link with one another.
Yeah.
And make me unique.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, also something interesting that I feel like is maybe also linked to that is this idea of like values, because I feel like there's some things that maybe you can compartmentalize yourself into, which is like, what do you stand for, what do you believe? And I think that also, like, I think that'd be interesting for us to talk about also from a branding perspective, because if you're talking about a name, then maybe you're talking about a reputation or a personal brand, or like just because like that's Vivienne Westwood's essentially personal brand.
Yeah.
And it's like, from the name perspective, that's what people associate with her. So it's like, if you want to figure out who you are and what your like personal brand is, then maybe it's important to start with your values. Do you feel like you've got any of those figured out in terms of like your personal values, or things that you really believe?
I feel like one of the things that I value is actually the evolution of values.
Oh, really?
Which sounds like a bit vague, but I really value continuous development, and personally in my life, just always becoming a better person and never looking back and like being stagnant and thinking I haven't grown at all. Mm-hmm. That's something I really like deeply care about.
So like growth, basically.
Yeah, so in a way, over time, my values have definitely changed and evolved.
Yeah.
And that's one of my values.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. I think just that's what I'm saying, like knowing exactly what you stand for. That's what I always think when people ask me about, like, say, how did I grow on LinkedIn, for example. To me, and like grow your personal brand, I always feel like, for me, it was always just really clear what I stood for or what my opinions were, and it was just more about putting those out into the world. Like, if I know, for example, that I really value, like, where you stand on you know, the debates, basically, is like, I really value working remotely and work freedom, and I also value, obviously, like, community and friendship, and like it's super easy to talk about those things if you really stand for them. And it's not like you have to basically just either make them up or fabricate them to stand for something. I think it's just like, when people struggle with who they are as like a personal brand, I think it's more just about defining exactly what you stand for in this moment. And of course that can evolve, but what is it that you care about? Just talk about that. Just stand for something and make your opinions clear, and the people that want to either support you or follow you or whatever it might be will find you and will resonate with that. Because I think the people that are so like in the middle and wishy-washy and not clear on where they stand on the debate, I think they struggle to make that connection with people and find like-minded people as well.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's something that people really have resonated with me, and why my personal brand has grown so much, because I often get comments and messages from people saying like, it's such a breath of fresh air to like read content that is like authentic and just like talks openly about like struggles and stuff, because that is something that I value. So I'm putting it out into the world, like struggling as a business owner, as a new business owner, and not really know what I'm doing, but just like going for it anyway. And you don't have to know exactly what you're doing if you want to do something. You just have to have the courage to actually give space to your dreams.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Go for it. And I think that that's definitely something that I really value, is just, if you have dreams and ambitions, don't push them away. Don't put them aside for anything.
Yeah. When was the last time you feel like you did something that you really weren't ready for, but you did it anyway?
That's a very good question. Probably what I'm doing now with the design club.
Yeah.
Like, part of me feels like I'm not qualified enough to give people this advice. I know that people ask me a lot for it, so that does make me feel like I can give value to people. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just a girl who's been trying to do this thing with the design studio for the past year and a half, and, you know, I've been writing on LinkedIn and I've been learning along the way. Like, I don't have all of the perfect answers, but what I've done so far has worked, so I know that I can give value, but it is scary to put yourself out there, and in a way I feel like I need to have like way more experience and like, I don't know, like boil everything down to this like perfect strategy, and then I can put it out. But actually that goes against what I believe in, because what I have done so far is just go for it and learn, and I'm sort of embracing that by doing this.
Yeah. And also, do you know what though? I feel like what you're doing, and like especially, you know, with the stuff that you're working on right now to help people, like you say, even though you might not necessarily feel ready, obviously my next question is, what would it take for you to feel ready? Like, what classifies as enough knowledge? What classifies as enough? Like, is it an age? Is it because you'll probably get to 3 years down the line and it still not feel ready? But actually, what really stands out to me from that is the fact that you doing this, even though you're not quite ready, or there's an amount of uncertainty there, even though you know that your knowledge is valuable, it's almost like an act of rebellion against like your, whether it's your inner critic or whether it's just like society as a whole telling that you as a young business owner can, you know, bring out a product or bring out knowledge that you think is valuable. Like, I think that sort of element of, nah, fuck it, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
That's like the punk element. That's the rebellious side of it that I think captures all the people that are in Rebel Design Club. Surely, do you feel like they have that in common?
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, you relate to the people that have joined Rebel Design Club, right? But what do you feel the most passionate about when it comes to helping those people specifically?
I do feel like the thing that I really want to help people with is, because all of the people in the club obviously have the ambition to do their own thing and rebel against this life that society tells you to have, and I know that they want to take more control of their own life and their own career, but there's always that one thing that's like the fear and being afraid to do it, and like, what if I'm not good enough, and all these what ifs. But actually, like, it is an act of rebellion to be like, you know what, I feel all of these things, but I'm gonna just fucking do it anyway. And that's really what I care about, is like helping people overcome that little like in between period. It's like, I really want this thing, but like, how do I get over that hurdle?
Yeah. And you also have to like have, say, like the role models, right? I feel like you're probably quite the role model to a lot of people in terms of like the way that you've grown your LinkedIn and the way that you've, you know, like get all of your like clients inbound and the sort of work that you do. Like, obviously people need role models like that, and also like the access to the role models, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like you opening this up as a community and helping people, it gives everyone that like surrounding community of people that are doing the same thing, because I think doing it on your own is probably like a million times more scary than doing it with other people that want to get there as well, because if you don't see it modeled, you don't feel like it's possible for you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something I want to really avoid, is that sort of elitism where you see these people that are doing really well, but you're like, there's that massive disconnect. Like, how do I get there as well? And then it makes you sort of feel like there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
But actually, like, every single person that's ever done something with their life, like, you could be that person as well, I feel like. Maybe it's delusional, but I just feel like I could be really famous.
Yeah. But if they can do it, why can't you? Do you know what I mean? It's
they're
like
just a person as well.
Yeah. Well, that's what
I'm a person.
like people that are, you know, that see you in a successful design career, or in a successful, call it even like a, you know, obviously bound to talk about LinkedIn at some point, but like a successful LinkedIn career, like, have you got like a piece of advice for them that you feel like you always give that would help them get to where you are?
I think, I'm trying to think, because there is actually a couple of things that I'll probably say.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to pinpoint down to just one thing, because obviously there is like a lot of different things that people who are successful and like what I've done to get to where I am. But I think if I had to boil it down to like one thing, it would be to just embrace the fear about it.
Yeah.
Because it's the fear that stops people being consistent, and it's the fear that stops, like, makes people give up because they're worried about how they're being perceived. Like, it all boils down to this like self-sabotage because you can't get over that fear. But actually you don't need to get over it, you just need to embrace it and be like, you know what, it's fucking scary, it feels horrible, and it's, you know, it's uncomfortable, but you just, if you want to be someone, or everybody that has done something with their life has felt the same thing.
Yeah.
And they've embraced it and got through it.
Yeah.
And eventually it doesn't feel as bad, but it's still scary. Like, we were nervous to do this.
Very nervous indeed.
And we've had many, many conversations. And it's like, sometimes I get scared to put some of the posts that I put up on LinkedIn, even though I've been doing it for so long. Some of the, especially when it's something really personal and like I'm being authentic and I'm, you know, sharing an opinion that I have or something personal to me. Like, it is scary. I'm terrified about the launch next week.
Yeah.
Because I've got all of the same fears. Like, what if it doesn't do well? What if no one buys it? What if everyone hates it? What if, like, I haven't done a good job and people don't even understand all of the content that's in it and the strategy and it doesn't work? Like, what if people use it and it doesn't work? There's all of these things that I'm feeling. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to know until I just do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And actually what I need to do is put the product out there and learn from it. If it doesn't go well, it's okay because I can handle that.
Yeah.
And just being it, and I think that's something as well, like being able to accept that if it doesn't work, then you can handle it.
Yeah, because you'll be okay either way,
okay.
I think. And that's like, and that's really helped me for sure, is this idea of, you know, if something doesn't work, it's fine because I know that I've built the resilience and also like that trust to know that last time I did something that didn't go well, I didn't die.
Yeah.
So the likelihood is that I won't die this time. So therefore...
And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, the more you show up for yourself every day, the more you gain that trust with yourself to know that you've got the resilience to not let something affect you, like not let a certain failure affect you, because you do show up so much for yourself. When you're not showing up for yourself, it's really easy to be able to feel crap about failure.
Yeah.
Whereas if every single day you're doing all of the things you need to do to feel your best self, one little failure is not going to set you back from that. You're just going to embrace it.
Exactly. And I think that there's also like ways to sort of like work your way up, right? Because we're talking about like launches and about like, oh, putting yourself out there. I mean, obviously I remember when I launched Journee Girls Club, I was like, I have no idea if this is going to work. Yeah. Not a clue.
Now look at you.
I don't know, look at me. But it's still this idea of like, you can mitigate the risk in a certain way. Like, I think especially starting out and building that trust, you can start with smaller things and work your way up. You could be like, oh, I don't know, even stuff with like, you know, the gym, for example. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna try and, I don't know, push this weight, but all my safety bars are in place, everything's gonna be fine. If it doesn't go well, or my form's not great, or whatever, it's fine. It's not a problem. Fine. It's not a problem. But at least now you know where you stand, and you can, you know, sort of like alter everything from there. Mm-hmm. But just taking like the smaller risks, like even, you know, speaking to someone in a coffee shop, for example, you can be like, right, okay, it's a bit risky, a bit scary, but you know, if that person blanks me and doesn't want to speak to me,
it's fine.
I'll be okay. It'll feel a bit weird, but it'll be okay. But they might also be the next person that, you know, they might give you a great idea, or they might become your best friend, or they might, like, all the upside risk is so big and the downside risk is tiny.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably the same with, you know, even with the launch, it's like the upside risk is the amount of people that you'll be able to help and the amount of people that will gain something. And again, like, you know what I find really interesting? I've really had to come to terms with the fact that different people will get different things from the stuff that we put out there. Like, I think with Journee Girls Club, I've definitely learned that not everyone gets the same thing from the community. Some people are really into the accountability side. Some people really... Obviously, everyone wants to make friends and everyone wants that deep connection. And that's what we've all got in common. But some people, prefer the more creative stuff that we do, and some people prefer the more accountability side, and then some people just prefer chatting to me one-on-one or getting like one-on-one support. And it's like all these different things that I really wish that everyone would get all of the value, but actually it can just be one tiny thing,
You
and
can
it's
take
not
what you need.
exactly the thing that I find the most difficult to deal with is the fact that it's not within your control what people will get from what you put out
Allow
there.
people to get what they need from it.
Exactly, and you don't really know what that will be, but it's really, I think, just releasing that control. I heard a really, really good quote actually, and I'll shout out Anna, because Anna's also in the community, but Anna posted this on a story the other day, and I think this is true for what you're launching as well, is like feeling so responsible for the development of the people that you're trying to help, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I really wish that everyone would do exactly as I say, as I ask in this document. She said she would much rather take a tiny little step into someone's world and awaken them to the possibilities than to let herself hold herself back from actually helping people because she's scared that people wouldn't get exactly what they needed out of what she was doing. And it's like, I think even just that willingness to try and that willingness to help people and be like, I'd rather, even if you don't do all of these things that I ask step by step, I would rather just put that little bit of knowledge into your life that might help you. 'Cause
they'll never forget that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that is
they'll
like...
always know that there's like all of these possibilities. So when they are, you know, maybe it will take them a little bit longer. Like it might even be a couple of years before they're like, okay, now I'm ready. But at least they'll know that it's possible.
Yeah, and I think you also... This is why I'm such a big advocate for, you know, like meeting so many different people and just like talking to people and getting to know people and making connections and networking or community, all the ways that you could probably call it, is because you literally never know when you're going to meet someone that gives this tiny little piece of information that just flips the switch on you and you're like, oh my god, it feels like I'm in a different world. It feels like I've gained something new. And I feel like I do that probably daily with the people that obviously I hang out with in Journee Girls Club and just like with the people that I meet travelling. But it's just, you can do that anywhere. You can literally do it from your own bed on LinkedIn.
I know the person that did that for me, that opened up the possibility.
Oh yeah, go on then.
And it's this girl called Lily May.
Oh, yeah.
Who, I've never ever spoken about this before anywhere.
Really?
But basically, I was on TikTok, it was during COVID, and I just downloaded TikTok after years of like, maybe not years, but a while of being like, I'm never downloading that, like I was one of them.
Me too.
And then I downloaded it. And I just saw this girl called Lily May talking about how she's made money being a VA. And I was in my final year of uni at this point, and I already knew that going into full-time work was not going to resonate with me because I'd done it before. Before I went to uni, I was working full-time. And I was like looking for ways that I could do it myself, but I was never in a position to know what that looked like because I didn't have any entrepreneurial people around me. There wasn't particularly the resources for it in my school. Uni, there was the resources, but I didn't know how to look for it. It felt like something that was like really out of reach for me. And then this one girl made this video about it, Lily May, and I really hope I'm getting that name right because it's been so long. Well, I think that's her name. I know she's called Lily. And she was just talking about it, and then she was doing a masterclass on it, and it was 150 quid, and I was really broke. And I was like, you know what? This is like gonna open my world up. So I just spent the 150 quid on it. And then I started doing branding. And it was from that literal moment. Obviously I did carry on going into full-time work after that for a while. But then I always knew what the possibility was.
Yeah.
That it was there for me.
Yeah.
And that definitely helped me eventually like push over the edge.
Yeah.
And quit my job.
Yeah, because it doesn't necessarily have to be people that you know or that you meet. It can also be people, you know, online that just sort of like flip that switch for you just from being able to, like you say, model what it was. And I think that person for me was you, right? Because obviously, you know, LinkedIn changed my life and all this sort of stuff, but like,
it did.
It genuinely did. Like, I met you because of LinkedIn, very, very randomly. Just the fact that we were even in the same city, I think, is a very interesting synchronicity. Just to be, because what are the chances that we'd both be in Vietnam as two little British girls? You know, like just being in Vietnam.
So much in common.
Exactly.
Like trying to do the same thing.
Exactly. And like, how many followers did you have when we met? Like,
I think I was around 7,000.
7,000.
Which I thought was unreal at the time. I thought I was the dog's bollocks for having 7,000 followers. Anyone who has that, like, well done.
Yeah, exactly. And especially, I think, especially for LinkedIn, because I think, you know, you sort of get into the whole, like, Instagram, TikTok thing of being like, oh, I've only got 7,000 followers, I've only got 30,000 followers, and it's like people on TikTok got, like, millions and millions.
Yeah.
But in the world of LinkedIn, that's already, like...
I felt great about
You've got a good name for yourself. And again, like, it's reputation-based, and putting yourself out there really helps for that. But, you know, you had 7,000 followers, you were already then getting a lot of your clients inbound through LinkedIn. And I was like, wow, that's super impressive. And you just being like, no, you need to do this. And you teaching me about hooks and about, you know, writing and about showing up as your authentic self. So it's kind of crazy to think where we've been then versus where we are now. Because, like, again, not to make it about followers, but you're like, what, 42?
42, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So much.
It's crazy to think that I was only at 7,000 when I met you.
Yeah, because it was like a year ago.
Yeah.
A little bit over. And I'm at like 30 now. And I literally came from zero because of all of your tips. And because of all of the advice, which is like now, you know, I see the guide that you're about to put out. And I'm like, yep, period. Like, I've seen it all. And I'm like, all of those things genuinely did help me grow to where I am now, and to be the basis of not only my business, but also other opportunities, speaking opportunities, podcast guests, brand deals. Like, none of those things I ever thought were possible for me, all because of you. No, all because of...
It's definitely not all because of
Well, it's all because of your help, though, and I think that is what I'm saying when it's like, oh, you know, don't be afraid to reach out to people, or don't be afraid to make friends and show up
100%.
And show up as your authentic self, because you literally just...
You never know what you're opening up the doors to.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Just by being an open person and like allowing the opportunities to come in. Like, you have to be open to them. And then like speaking to somebody that has helped you so much, or like that you aspire to, or that like, you know, you really like. It's scary, but it makes you feel good.
Yeah, definitely.
When you do it successfully.
There's two distinct camps for me of like people that are themselves on the internet, and then some people that thrive off being a persona on the internet. And I think both are valid, because people want their privacy and people want their, you know, they want to be able to switch themselves on and off from work. Whereas like, I think if you're just yourself for a living,
that's true.
All of a sudden, now you just basically working 24/7 because you've somehow monetized or managed to make a living out of just being you. And it's hard to switch off from that, and hard to make it like a clear cut between it. You don't really realise it about yourself. Like, we've talked about this before of like, sometimes I'll send people a message on LinkedIn and they'll be like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm getting a message from you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's sort of jarring. Like, that's so nice. But I'm like, I'm literally just a girl.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
you. I'm the same as you, literally. Like.
And it's just like, just because one of us has got 200 followers and the other one's got 30, it just has no bearing on the fact that I'm just incredibly uncool and normal, and I feel like being a normal woman is just the best thing in the world.
Because I don't think you're uncool.
Thanks. I just, you know, just a regular girl basically, and I think that being able to connect a little bit more on that, and just being like, seeing people as people. Because I think even there's a couple of people on LinkedIn where if I met them, I'd be like, oh my god, it's that person.
100%.
But actually, they're just people. And they're just exactly the same as you.
And this is why I feel so strongly about what I'm doing with the design club stuff. And by doing, like, helping people build their LinkedIn brand as a designer. Because I'm like, I did it. So I know for a fact you can do it. Because I'm not special.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I work hard. And you have to work hard to get here, like we all do.
Yeah.
But as long as you've got that in you, you can do it as well. 100%.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like, it's really important to remind people of that, and not be like, you know, just sort of sat there being like, wow, I'm so great because I've done this. And I think also there's another thing that comes into that. I'd love to know what you think about this. Is like, you know, the whole like, oh, once I get so many followers, I'll be happy. Once I get to this amount of money, I'll be happy. Once, you know, and it's like, people think that they need to get to a certain amount of followers before they can share the knowledge, or before they can launch products, or before they can do all these things. And it's like, in all of those ways, you sort of not only holding yourself back, but also you always just reach a new level, right?
100%.
Where do you feel like you are in the levels right now, in terms of what you want to, like, not what you want to do next, 'cause I don't want to be like, oh, what's next? Now that you're about to launch this, what are you launching next or whatever? But like, where do you feel like you thought you'd be really happy, and now you've sort of realised that maybe that wasn't exactly what you were aiming for?
Mm-hmm. I specifically remember earlier in the year, or like late last year or something, when I hit 20,000 followers, and I remember saying to you, "No, I need 40 now," and now I'm at 40. And you know what? It feels exactly the same as when I had 20. It really does. Like it's lovely, and I really enjoy what I'm doing, but it's really not about that.
Yeah.
I've had quite a hard year with work this year, and it is because of like there's a friction between what I am doing and what I really want to be doing. And obviously earlier in the year I thought like I want to make loads of money and get loads of followers, and that was my goals. But then I realised actually like it's not all about that.
Yeah.
And that's where the friction came from.
Yeah. When you're starting out, you don't necessarily have this big mission because one, you feel like you can't make any difference. And two, you don't really know who you are yet or what your skills are.
It's actually a really good position to be in.
Yeah.
Because like there's so many opportunities.
Yeah. And you can pick whichever one you feel, strongest about. And I think that was definitely me in the beginning, was just like talk about whatever I fancied, because I didn't have anything to like push off. I didn't have anything that was like, I absolutely need people to know that this is what my mission is. But I think, so then at that point, I remember for me, it was like, oh, I want to make money and I want to gain followers, because it was just, that was the only goal that I had. But then now I've realised that actually the moment that getting money and getting followers became easy was when I switched my focus from getting famous and rich to, oh, I actually really want to help these specific sets of people. And I actually really care about these specific things. So like, community, friendship, deep conversations, working on business, all those things. I'm so passionate about those, I could kill a man. And now all of a sudden these things have like the fame and the the richness. I mean, again, 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. I mean, it'd be great, but I'm just like, those things have sort of, they're a bonus now. They've gone into the shadow, but they've actually started to happen now that I've shifted my focus from them.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've had a similar experience?
I don't know, actually. I don't know if I have it, but yeah.
I feel like for you, that's always been the case, because as a designer, you've always been focused on helping other people succeed.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably, again, speaks so much to the service industry of, as soon as you have an idea of who you want to help and why, not only does that feed into your content, but it also, again, like the sort of like recognition and the money sort of come as a result of you being like, I'm really passionate
trying
about
to help people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because like it's always been about me using creativity in a way that can be beneficial to other people, because that's what you need to do as a brand designer. So I feel like I've always been talking about that kind of stuff, but then eventually I've realised, and it still encompasses branding, to be honest, but like me helping designers.
Yeah.
Like it's all part of branding. It's personal branding. It's obviously a different set of branding to what I do with clients, but I've always been very aware that I want to serve people. Like for quite a lot of my life, I've always had that like inherent need to be helpful to other people, to feel fulfilled. And I think being aware of that quite early on has been really helpful for me.
Yeah.
And like as you say, like by doing that authentically, like these other bonuses, things have happened as a bonus.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily come as, they're not the end goal, right? Like gaining notoriety and gaining, say, like a following or making money from a certain thing. Obviously making money can be a goal. I'm talking about like wanting to be rich, because for me, my entire goal for the last 2 years has been to cover my living costs. I don't think that that's necessarily like a crazy goal. If people are like, oh, how much do you want to make? And I'm just like, I just want to keep living the life that I'm living.
Yeah.
Actually, that might be an interesting thing to talk about, in the sense of, we're both obviously here in Koh Phangan in the middle of Thailand on an island, because a lot of people think they have to make a lot of money and save a lot of money to be then able to afford themselves a life like this. But you pretty much came out here while you were still building your business, right?
Yeah.
What was your experience with that?
I mean, obviously, putting aside lots of other factors that we don't have to deal with, let's just ignore those for now because we can't resonate with that. But for me, like, obviously I had to quit my job, had to give up my life at home, I had a bit of savings, like it wasn't a lot, but I was like so determined to make it work. And part of the reason I came here was because I knew the cost of living was lower, and I knew I'd be able to stretch my money further here so that I could have more time to make this dream work.
Yeah.
And like obviously it's amazing as well. So it was like really a really good position to be in. But I mean, at first, when I first started, I was like just making enough. I was staying in hostels at first when I first came here. You just do what you need to do, really.
Yeah.
To make it work.
I think what's also interesting is like, you could, in theory, and I mean, maybe it's just an interesting thought experiment, because I know that everyone's situations are different and all the, you know, prefaces that need to come with that. But like, there's an element of how much of it is safe, and do you need a little bit of uncertainty to give you that push to actually be a little bit more bold?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel like if you'd have lived at home with your parents, that maybe the trajectory would have maybe been a little bit different, because you've got that?
It definitely would.
You know that you're fine, basically.
Yeah.
No matter what happens.
Yeah, that's true.
And maybe you need that little bit of a risk, or like this idea of like your back being pushed against the wall a little bit, of being like, right, okay, I need to get clients.
Definitely. And that goes back to what we was originally talking about, which was you're not going to feel ready to do it.
Yeah.
But you have to like give it a shot, and there is a risk element to that, and there definitely was coming out here, because first of all, then I got a taste of this amazing life, being around all of these amazing people that help, you know, push me further as a business owner, and the risk of losing that and having to go back home to like a very normal life is a risk I don't want to take. So then it pushes me to keep, you know, making money and going
you can get
further.
creative then as well.
Yeah, because when you're in a position where you're like, right, I really need to make this work, it's like life or death. It's obviously not, but it kind of feels like that in some sort of way. Then you're like, right, what I'm going to do to get there? I remember really specifically, actually, there was one moment quite early on in my freelancing when I needed to make £1,000 for some reason. I don't know why it was that number, but I remember it being that number, and I was like, right, I need to make £1,000 this month. What I'm going to do? And I was like brainstorming all of these different ways where, and you know, and I ended up doing it. Like I got some really good work out of that. But if I hadn't have had that element of like, I need this, otherwise my life is going to fall apart and this life I've built is going to go away, then I'd never have brainstormed all these creative ideas, because I wouldn't have needed to.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't be where I am now.
Exactly. I do think you need to have a pressure element. I think that was the same, and you do get creative in those moments, and I think maybe even creating more of those moments for yourself to get a bit more creative.
Yeah.
If you want to like make strides forward, being able to just, how do you create the situation where now you feel a little bit more under pressure? Because I remember the same thing when I started Journee Girls Club. The idea for it came to me because, in all honesty, it wasn't the idea that came to me. It was more this idea of like, right, I need to get my finger out and do something now, because I've been travelling and living off my savings the entire time, and my savings was getting low. And I was like, it's been a year, I've ate through all this money, and it's been a great life, and I think that that's really important, is to know what you're aiming for, know what's possible, and want to attain that. Like, all I want to do is make enough money to keep living this life. That's not a lot.
No.
I don't need to be a millionaire. I just want to have enough money to be able to keep living this, but I wouldn't have that strive to do that if I didn't know how amazing this was.
Yeah.
But apart from that, in that moment, I was like, I'd realised that I had this fear around making money, because I didn't know what my identity was if I was to just suddenly make money for something that I really cared about, for something that was just mine. Like, I'd never owned a business before, and I was like, okay, this is going to be really weird if someone pays me for doing something that I could see myself doing forever, that's going to be a big shift in my identity, so I'm sort of scared to do it.
Yeah.
But then when I ultimately started doing this, I was like, it was that moment where I was like, right, it is literally crunch time. Like, I either start doing something and make money somehow, or I'm going home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, it's not the idea had always been there. It had always sort of been weaving its way, for community itself, it had always been weaving its way into all of the stuff that I was doing. But I'd never seen it as a business opportunity. I still don't really see it as a business, so it's weird to talk about it like that. But it's like, this opportunity to do something that was really valuable, that'd be really cool.
And that you fucking love as
that
well.
I really love. It was just that push to be like, my back's against the wall, what am I going to do? It could have not worked and I might have come up with a different idea, but giving that idea a chance was actually just came from this idea of, right, okay, it's crunch time now.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't have just taken that risk because I really felt passionate about making it work, it might have never come to fruition. What a break.
I mean, that again goes back to another point that we was talking about earlier, which is, you know, opening yourself up to the possibility of something. Once something or yourself or somebody has given you a taste of what could happen, like, you'll do anything to not lose that.
Yeah. That's what I think has definitely helped me or resonated with me a lot, is this idea of, like, that was the same when I was living in Bangkok. It was like, you know, I wake up in this incredible apartment that I couldn't afford and I shouldn't have spent that much money on. But, like, I couldn't afford. I'd wake up every morning and I'd open the blinds and it'd be all this big cityscape and I felt like I was living in New York, and I was like, and that is the place where my business came to be, because it was like, I'm in this place and I can imagine what's possible, and I want this to be my life. I'm currently living in the future version of my own life.
100%.
And I want to get there. I want to sustain that, so I need to give myself the chance to do it.
This is something that I actually is one of my big values, is that sometimes, not all the time if you can't afford it, but it is worth the investment on giving yourself a taste of a life that you could have. Yeah. Like, if you've got a dream for what your life could look like, it's worth investing a bit of money to, like, feel it.
Yeah.
So that you never want to, like, lose it, and it pushes you harder.
Yeah.
And I feel exactly the same. Like, when I made the decision to move to Bangkok, I was like, it's a really good opportunity to save money, to be honest, because obviously the cost of living is so much cheaper, but obviously there was a possibility that I could settle for, like, a cheap condo that was, like, fine, it would do the job and it would have been nice. But I was like, no, like, I've come here to live a dream. Like, I've got all of these goals and these ambitions, and I want to feel like I'm in a position to push myself hard. And I know that if I make the investment on somewhere that I can wake up every day and feel amazing, that'll inspire me and motivate me to keep going with it and to keep, you know, making the effort.
Yeah. I do think that also, like, big tip for that is take pictures. Like, if you like, you know, if you book a really nice Airbnb for a night, you know, to live in this, like, big city apartment that you dream of and stuff, make sure you take as many fucking pictures of yourself doing the thing as possible, and put yourself on your vision board. Like, I think that's like exactly, but it's like, I think it's important to be like,
put yourself on your vision board. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's like this idea of, like, it's also important in that same vein to remember how much of your dream life you're already living. Like, if you're already surrounded by the people you want to be surrounded by, or you're already in the weeds of building the thing that you want to build, or you're living in the place you want to live, even if only one of those boxes is ticked, like, you're already getting there.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the things that we do is, like, actionable steps that we take to actually bring what we manifest into fruition. Like, we make vision boards because we're, like, trying to bring this dream life we have into fruition, and then maybe spending a couple of nights in a really amazing apartment, or a couple of months, however long it was, in somewhere really amazing is another step. Is, like, just going a little bit closer to eventually you'll get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
But you have to keep intentionally making those choices.
Yeah. I feel like that'd be my next question for you, is, like, why did you move to Bangkok, and how do you feel like it's influenced you as a person?
The people there are really cool. Like, it's kind of edgy,
yeah,
and I really like that about it, and I feel like that suits what I'm doing quite well. But yeah, also just, like, having the opportunity to have a taste of that life that I could have for the rest of my life if I work hard. Like, if I don't work hard for the next year, I might have to move home, but doing this and living where I am motivates me to keep pushing.
Yeah, I think that's, like, what has been on my mind recently, in terms of, like, picking the place that you want to live based on how you want to feel versus, like, how it inspires you. Because I think that was the same for me in Bangkok, as, like, I was motivated, there's people working late nights, there's people are just going for it. and you've got that like buzz and that energy, and again it feels like you're in this like big metropolitan, it feels like you've made it in a certain sense. And I really needed that, and I do feel like that was the catalyst for me to start my business. But then came a point where I moved back to Vietnam, and it was a bit chaotic, and I felt that chaos inside of me. It's like, you know, the whirring of a fridge, and it's like you can hear it, and it's just that sort of unsettling feeling. And obviously being in Vietnam's great, but it was just a little bit too chaotic for where I was in my life, which was a big reason why then I was like, okay, well, I want to feel more calm, I want to feel more tranquil, and I want to be in a place that is the catalyst for me to work on my health and well-being, because I'd actively and, you know, intentionally discarded my health, which I wouldn't recommend doing at all.
In the pursuit of business.
In the pursuit of making Journee Girls Club work. And obviously now it does work, and now it's amazing. And now I'm building off of that momentum. But I had to take the responsibility back and say, okay, I've not been to the gym in 6 months. Or I've not been to the gym very much in 6 months. Where am I going to go that makes me more intentional with the thing that I'm trying to prioritise? And that, obviously, for me was now Koh Phangan. And I'm like, do you feel like that's what Bangkok's done for you in terms of your, like, motivation and your artistic, like, creativity?
Yeah, because I needed that. I think I'd obviously spent a year prior to that traveling, which I needed to experience. Like, I needed to, you know, as I said, have a taste of all these different places and meet amazing people, and, you know, it makes you feel more confident in who you are, and I needed that experience. But then after I'd experienced that, and I, you know, felt good in it, and I got to a point where I was like, right, I need to focus on business now. I need to be somewhere that fuels me creatively, because unfortunately, like, I love being on the islands and being in all these amazing places, but there's not like a huge creative scene. There's a really good entrepreneurial scene, don't get me wrong, but like in terms of being inspired creatively, it's kind of, and I mean specifically design wise. Yeah. Creatively, business wise, yeah, perfect. But I meant like specifically design wise, and I was missing that. So Bangkok has been a really good place to be, because there's some very cool shit happening. Yeah. All the time there.
It's always like insane art installations and just like crazy stuff going on.
And last year when I was travelling, I had that sort of desire again. And I think it stems, obviously, like, I was in Sheffield at uni, and then I moved to London, which like both have really good creative scenes. So then when I was travelling, I sort of felt that loss a little bit. And that's why I decided to go to Tokyo. And then I had like a taste of a city that had like an amazing design scene. And I was like, damn, like, this is really cool. And I knew that I wanted to be in Asia. Unfortunately, Tokyo is a bit too expensive.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit harder to live there as a digital nomad. So Bangkok was like a really good one.
Yeah, definitely. When I first started travelling, I thought that all of my problems and all of my mental health issues were going to disappear once I moved to a new place. I was like, oh my god, you know, I'm going to be a new woman, I'm going to go to the gym every day, I'm going to do this, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to blah 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 blah. And then I got to this new place and I realised I am exactly the same person. If not, my problems are probably a little bit more heightened now.
Yeah. That has actually been something that's come up a lot for me this year since I've moved to Bangkok, because whilst I was travelling a lot and really frequently, it's really easy to distract myself. And I felt exactly the same. I was like, when I go away, like, I need to just be out of the UK and then I'll be happy. And it's always that feeling of like, once I'm here, then I'll be happy. And I felt like that moving to Bangkok, and I was like, right, now I can settle down and live my life. But actually what's happened is that I've settled, and it's just been an opportunity for everything I need to work on still to come up to the surface that I'd been avoiding for the past year, and then previously to that waiting for something else to take it away or cure.
Yeah.
When actually the only way you can do it is to like just face it.
Yeah.
And I feel the same. Like I've always like brought everything with me.
Yeah, I think that is the thing, is like you can escape any place that you want, right? But you literally cannot escape yourself.
Yeah.
You cannot escape what you genuinely need to work on will follow you. It's like you literally just can't. You can't get rid of the things that will continuously come up and that need to be worked on. It's like you you can't escape yourself no matter how far to the other side of the world you
Yeah.
go. Your problems will just, they'll follow you and they'll come back bigger and
Yeah,
better.
and they will. They'll be more heightened because you believed that they would go away, and they haven't. So now it feels like even more immediate.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
yeah, it feels like stronger. Like, I need to fix this thing.
And also, like, I think for me, especially like going to Vietnam, for example, I was so much more, I didn't enjoy it as much because I had something that I needed to work on, but also I just felt a bit more, I was more hypervigilant. I was in a new place. I felt more unsafe, and like all of that uncertainty then I think also heightens whatever you're, you know, like whatever you're dealing with or whatever is prominent in your life at that moment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
No.
Did a good job.
You did a really good job.
Thanks.
I've really enjoyed yapping.
What are you most excited about for, like, halfway through the year? What are you most excited about for the rest of the year? Or what do you think your main focus is going to be?
I'm currently on a journey to go back to my like artistic roots and
Oh, yeah.
creative roots, especially with business, because over the last year and a half with business, I'm very much a business owner, and that's sort of like what I've come across as, and I like that. I do really like that, and I do resonate with being like an entrepreneur and a business owner, but also I don't ever want to lose that artistic side of myself and being known as an artist and as a creative, and I feel like that's sort of a balance that I'm trying to work out currently, is business owner, artist, like where's the middle ground, and if I lean too much on one side, do I lose the other side of it?
Yeah.
If I want to be known more as an artist, then I have to show up as that version of myself
Yeah.
more than I am an entrepreneur, or like balancing it better, and so far I don't think I've balanced that too well. Just like being more intentional with that, I think will be really good. I've got some plans for what I want to do with Althea Sky as well, and making that resonate a little bit more with, you know, the direction I want to go in and the ambitions I have with it.
Yeah.
Because so far I've obviously just been working it out and now I feel like a year and a half in, I'm like, okay, I know exactly what it is. I know exactly what I want to do with it. And I just needed to, you know, have this past year and a half to get to this point.
You can only get to the point where you know what something is by making all that, you know, like taking the messy action, or by like going step by step and like carving out what it means to like own your business and what you want that to become. And I think that, like you're saying, like that struggle between deciding, do I want to work on Rebel Design Club or do I want to work on Althea Sky, like all the business side, it's like, I think there's an interesting way to sort of like not combine them. They can still be two different like lanes, but they're basically like train tracks heading in the same direction. It's like you can work on both of them maybe in tandem, or obviously define who you are and figure out more who you are, and then apply that knowledge. You can apply those values to both of the projects that you're working on, and how you can like synthesize that information into both of them in the way that makes sense for each of them.
Yeah, and I think it really boils down to just embracing like the chaos of evolution.
Yeah.
And just like, instead of trying to aim for a goal of like definition, just like right now the goal should be evolving and embracing all of that like craziness that comes with it. And you know, there's going to be a lot of like different ideas and directions I could go in, and by embracing that, then I'll eventually figure it out. And it's like a really nice position to be in, because there's so much opportunity in it.
Yeah, you could do anything.
I could do anything.
Love that. Right, well, I mean, I feel like it probably makes sense to end it there, but Hannah, where can people find you? Probably LinkedIn.
Probably LinkedIn. I am trying to build my TikTok as
and
well.
your Instagram.
And my Instagram. So Hannah Del Herrera on all platforms.
Brand name. All of Hannah's stuff will be obviously linked below in whatever form this takes. And yeah, Hannah, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad we got to do this in person.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
it's been really nice.
Bye. Let us know your thoughts by commenting below, and don't forget to hit subscribe. And if you're still listening to this, you might be a good fit for the community. So if you want to level up in business and life surrounded by girls on your level, then make sure you check out Journee Girls Club and apply to join our next intake of members. See you soon!